question on your homework last night. That's not an equation, that's an expression. We factor expressions. We solve equations. So now that we throw an equals 0 into the mix, that's how you know that you're solving, and therefore you tee it up. Evan, do you have your note sheet? Oh, you have it in your lap, sorry. So make sure that if it does not have an equal sign, then just factor and stop. Because if you do something like this, and you get 2k plus 3 and 2k minus 3, and you take that and you tee it up, you set 2k plus 3 equal to 0 and solve, right? You're going to get it wrong, because that's not the directions. We actually have to take points off. If the directions are to factor on an open response, and you do this, which is right, and then you go further and you start teeing it up, we actually have to take off points because you did too much. And it's an indication that you don't understand the difference between factoring an expression, which would end here, versus solving an equation, which would end by teeing it up. Does that make sense? Okay? Hopefully it does. I know at least Mrs. Grzanti says that she tries to stress this, but she still has kids that tee it up when they're not supposed to. You only tee it up if it's an equation. Okay? And the reason teeing it up works is because of the zero product property. Because anything times 0 gives you 0 is why this whole teeing it up process works. So in these particular equations, and let's just do part C, how many factors do we have here? 3, okay? Now, if the zero product property says, and I'll use 3 factors, if A times B times C equals 0, then at least one of 3 things has to be true. Either A equals 0, or B equals 0, or C equals 0. Because of this very strong power of 0 that anything times 0 equals 0. So if we have 3 factors, one of the 3 of them, if any of the 3 of them equals 0, then we get ourselves a solution. Now the first factor here is 4. So if we set 4 equal to 0, what do you know about that? What do you know about that statement, 4 equals 0? It's just flat out false. It will never be true. So this is a no solution. That doesn't provide any solution. We take the next factor, we set that equal to 0, and solve. That does give us one potential solution. If x were to ever equal negative 2/3, it would be 4 times, when I plug negative 2/3 into here, I'm going to get 0. 4 times 0 times who cares what this would end up being. That would give us a solution equal to 0. And then your third factor, add 3 to both sides, divide by 4. If x equaled 3/4, that would be a solution as well. Okay? So pretty straightforward, you've done all this. Now we're going to solve quadratics. Now, first of all, let's go back. What makes something a quadratic? What is the property about an equation that makes it a quadratic? Nathan. It will. That's not what makes this a quadratic. That's how we are going to start solving a quadratic. But how do we first say, I know that all 4 of these are quadratic equations, actually with the exception of C. That's a little hint for you. C is not a quadratic.